Hello and welcome to Spirit and Life Radio. Well, I have to say, happy July 4th. And this is the day all Americans commemorate the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, declaring independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain. Happy Independence Day to all my listeners on the American side. And I hope you enjoy your time with your families this afternoon and later on this evening for the fireworks display wherever you may be enjoying them in celebration of our independence. And speaking of being free, we're in a series of messages concerning forgiveness. Forgiveness has a lot to do with being free. So let's talk about what is a forgiveness. God is unique. There isn't a second true God, small g. Jesus is unique. There has never been anyone else who is perfect, completely without any faults or sins. Christianity is unique. No other religion offers unconditional forgiveness to sinners. As such, it isn't one of many different ways to God. It's the only way to God. Christianity is unique because of forgiveness. Jesus' enemies often accused him of being a friend of sinners. They thought that this was disgraceful behavior. As far as they were concerned, the fact that Jesus mixed with prostitutes and tax collectors was proof that he wasn't a holy prophet or the long-awaited Messiah. However, Jesus insisted that he had come especially for sinners. He said that he was like a doctor who visited the sick, not the healthy. He said unto them in Matthew chapter 9, verse 12, "They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick." He told stories which suggested that the most unlikely and undeserving people could be forgiven by God. He announced forgiveness to a dying thief and to a woman with a terrible reputation. He chose a tax collector, a terrorist, and a cheat as members of his inner 12 disciples. These stories are listed in Luke chapter 23, verse 43, and John chapter 8, verse 11, and Jesus' emphasis on meeting and forgiving sinners was a revolution in religion. No other religion worshipped a God who was trying to get in touch with guilty people, a God on whom even the most corrupt had a special claim. The Jews of Jesus' day were convinced that God was so holy that detailed precautions were necessary for those who wanted to come near to him. They thought that many sins couldn't be forgiven, especially those which had been done on purpose. As far as they were concerned, only the pure, the good, the righteous had access to God. Only people with clean hands and a pure heart could stand in the holy place of God. Yet Jesus turned not to the righteous, but to the sinful. This was such a terrible blasphemy to Jesus' contemporaries that they crucified him. The first Christians took the message of Jesus to the world of the Greeks and the Romans, where everybody accepted the fact that only the pure could approach God. This meant that the first Christians were thought to be immoral, despicable, precisely because of the very people to whom they opened their arms. They opened their arms to sinners. Every other religion invited only the blameless, the educated, the respectable. However, Christianity welcomed the evil, the uneducated, and the corrupt. One of the main reasons why this new faith spread through the world was because it announced a message which was so different. Its good news was that in the light of God's intense holiness, nobody can classify one person as good and another as bad because all people are equally sinful in the face of God's absolute perfection, and all are in equal need of forgiveness. In Jesus, there is present in person a God who receives sinners. This was the different message of the first century Christians. Because of the cross, and we'll talk about this later, forgiveness with no strings attached is offered to every member of humanity. Now, these three simple facts were what tens of thousands of people had been waiting all their lives to hear. And they're exactly what millions more are still waiting to hear today. More than changing behavior. Because in everyday life, forgiveness is an active process which goes on inside the mind of someone who has been hurt. By forgiveness, the wrong person knocks down the barrier between him and the culprit so that they are both free to be friends again. It is an active process. Forgiveness isn't just a change in our behavior, a reluctant handshake and a forced smile. It's a change in our feelings and attitudes. The fault is swept away from our thoughts. Its negative influence on our emotions and actions comes to an end. It's a change in our feelings and attitudes. And if we say that we can forgive but not forget, we betray the fact that our forgiveness is wrapped in reservations and qualifications. Rather, we should forgive and forget, because forgiveness changes the significance of a fault. And of course, it's true that we will probably always be aware of the fault, but what changes with forgiveness is the way we feel about the fault. It no longer counts as something that matters to us, even though it once did. Before forgiveness, the fault provoked a barrier, resentment, anger, mistrust, and so on. After forgiveness has been given and received, the two of us are at peace with one another. Forgiveness is much more than not taking revenge against someone who has hurt us. Some of us may have enough self-control not to retaliate with our mouth or hands, but inside we are furious. We have long memories, and once wronged, we're often determined to show the offender that he can never treat us that way again. We suck at our grievance like a tasty sweet, and we bump into the person. We show them in our manner, if not our words, that their offense still rubs us up the wrong side in the wrong way. We might not have taken revenge, but we certainly haven't forgiven. Forgiveness is more than ignoring a hurt. Forgiveness isn't just ignoring an offense or a hurt, pretending that it hasn't happened, being afraid to point out that something is wrong or we have been hurt. There is no passion, no suffering, no honesty in merely ignoring wrong. When two people overlook the hurts they cause each other and go on hoping that the hurts will go away, their relationship is empty of compassion and love, and there is no sharing of experiences and feelings. Forgiveness brings truth, love, deep joy, and sharp pain into every relationship where it is practiced. It brings truth and love. It's more than not punishing. Many people think that forgiveness is merely the same thing as letting someone off a punishment. Well, it isn't. At a human level, a judge can decide not to impose the legal punishment for a crime and to ask the culprit instead to make a promise of good behavior in the future. Or a judge may impose no punishment at all because of the culprit's good record in the past. However, the judge can't personally forgive the culprit. Only the person who has been wronged or hurt can do that. A father may decide not to punish his child, yet he may also remember and remind the child of what he's done wrong. Only the person who has been hurt can forgive. What about God's forgiveness? At a divine level, God's forgiveness doesn't necessarily involve the abolition of all punishment. In fact, the truth is that forgiveness and punishment go together. This is because the holy love at the center of God's character makes everything else impossible. Whenever the holy God encounters evil, he must react against it. Love, to be love, must confront evil with purity. If God did not punish sin in the act of forgiving sin, he would not be more loving than he is. He would cease to be God. Of course, looking at the way the best of the people forgive each other gives a weak impression of God's forgiveness, as human forgiveness is only a faint echo or feeble imitation of the glorious eternal forgiveness God offers us. The Bible presents the forgiving love of God in a way that has no rival. It shows God as forgiving men and women with such a depth and extent that it is almost impossible to grasp it with our distorted human understanding. Forgiveness is hard to understand, yet it also describes the way that God moves against sin with all the intensity and passion of His holy being in what is often called wrath. Time and again, Christian people have focused on only one of these two emphases. But forgiveness and wrath are two notes in a chord, and each loses its meaning if detached from the other. Despite the sin against which God's indignation blazes, the Father takes the amazing step of receiving sinful people as friends. And in our next broadcast, we'll complete what is forgiveness, and I will be sharing some questions that you may have asked. Now, please stay tuned for a special announcement. Dear friends, if you'd like more information about the church and the ministry, please go to our website at www.surreycitychurch.com. That's surreycitychurch.com. And in doing so, you will also find our donate button at the top of the page. When you click on that, that will take you to our PayPal website. There you can make your tax-deductible donation by using your credit or debit card. Or, if you don't use PayPal, just follow the continue link at the bottom of the page to your left. And remember, we are a listener-supported radio broadcast in need of your support financially in order to stay on the air here on KARI Radio. And when you give, we're going to send you out a CD, The Spirit of Man and the Life of the Spirit. 60-plus minutes of insightful revelation on the human spirit and the life of God's Spirit in man. You are sure to be blessed. We also hope that you're sharing this broadcast with many of your friends. Ask them to tune in every Monday through Friday. Now, if you don't use the PayPal tool, you can always write to us and send in your donation to Spirit and Life Radio, suite number 491, 7360, 137th Street, Surrey, BC, V3W 1A3. That's suite number 491, 7360, 137th Street, Surrey, V3W 1A3. And on the U.S. side, you can send in your donation to P.O. Box 737, Ferndale, Washington, 98248. P.O. Box, that's 737 in Ferndale, Washington, 98248. Canadians, please make your checks out to Surrey Central City Church. And on the U.S. side, write your checks to Spirit Life Worship Center. Please include Spirit and Life Radio in the memo section of your checks so we may receive all of you properly who give. And we want you to know we appreciate your help in keeping us on the air. And now for our special announcement. This Sunday, we will be having worshiper and recording artist Jerry Palladino coming to us all the way from Mexico. Him and his wife are missionaries down south, and he's incredibly gifted of God. Jerry feels that much of today's music is for commercial purposes and with a financial goal above all in mind, but he's going to bring us into the heavenlies with the right attitude and the right spirit. You will not want to miss this. And so, if you'd like to visit our Sunday service, it is held at the brand new Chuck Bailey Recreation Center at 10:30 a.m., just south of the Gateway SkyTrain station on University Drive and 107 Avenue, or just north of the BC Lions practice facility on Park City Way and 107 Avenue. All of our information is on our website at surreycitychurch.com. Now remember, friends, it is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit, and they are life. Spirit Life Radio, your spirit-filled connection.